welcome back to Riding the Pine. This is our review of Game 14 of the 2021-2022 Chicago Blackhawks season. Tonight, the Blackhawks picked up their third win on the season with a 3-2 shootout victory over the Pittsburgh Penguins, improving their record to 3-9-2 on the season. But before we get to the review, please do me a really big favor and hit that like button down below and subscribe to the channel if you haven't done so already. That way, you will not have to come find us. We will come to you, and you will get all notifications for every video that is uploaded to this channel. Again, please do that if you would. It helps us out a lot on the channel. And before we get to the review, we have a lot of things to discuss. Some house cleaning matters, some office things to do. So if bear with me here. For those of you that have been with us for a while, you know that we usually do game day reviews. And for those of you that are new, you now understand that we usually are here after every game reviewing the previous night's matchup. That hasn't happened this year. And I am the reason why that has not happened. I have had some pretty significant medical issues that left me hospitalized for a day or so. And I've been working through that with my doctors, specialists, and medications. I'm not 100% yet, but I'm well on the way, I feel. And yeah, I am back. We will be back doing every game now. Hopefully we have no more flare-ups or scares with my medical issues. So now that they seem to be resolving themselves, I also want to make a small minor announcement because of this and because of his pregnancy with his wife. I obviously announced in the last episode our preseason review or season review preview rather, that Nick DeMario, our original co-host, would be returning this season, and I've just made the call for right now. I think we're gonna let Nick deal with his coming birth of his twin girls, as well as with me having my medical issues. It just didn't make sense in trying to work out with me having a co-host for this season. So it's just going to be me for the rest of the season. I think that'll work out well for everybody involved. Whether we stick with that going forward as we move into the prior seasons, we'll see. But for right now, you're stuck with me and my happy-go-lucky, sarcastic, witty, jackassy ass. And with that, let's get into the review, shall we? And before we get into the review, there's some things going on in Blackhawks land that we need to talk about because I haven't been around. Unless you've been on. If you have been on our Twitter page, by the way, I highly recommend that you come follow the Twitter page. It's at Riding the Pine 21. On the Twitter page, even while I've been sick, I have been tweeting pretty much every game, my thoughts there, in lieu of having the podcast here. So if you do want to interact with us in case something does happen again, or just in general, I think you should come over and join with us over in our community. I think we have a really, to start, we had some bad apples, I think, and I think you find that in any podcast, but I think I'm really enjoying my interactions with most people over on our page, whether they be listeners of the shows or just people that interact with us frequently on Twitter. I really think we're building something really nice here. And I want to see you guys interact with us here on the show. Come interact with us on Twitter. I really appreciate that. And also our numbers on Twitter over the last month are the largest they have ever been. And in terms of engagement on our Twitter page, in terms of followers coming in, we've lost a few bad apples that I kind of weeded out myself through interacting, but yeah, we've grown exponentially, and you guys are the reason for that. The people that follow us over on Twitter are the reason for that. So again, I want to say thank you. I want to thank you for, staying with us while I've had my issues getting sorted out. But yeah, again, greatly appreciate it. So let's get to the big news with the Blackhawks, shall we? We have yet to discuss that the Blackhawks have a new head coach. Derek King is the new interim head coach of the Chicago Blackhawks. That is not the move I would have went with. I forgive me if I'm wrong. I know I've said it on Twitter. I can't remember now whether I said it in the preview or not, the previous video for the season preview. But I know in the previous video that I did say, to me, this Blackhawks roster should be competing for the third spot in the division. And I still believe that, even with their record at 3-9-2, I still believe that on paper, this is at least, to me, the third best roster in the division. This team is better than Arizona. They are better than Dallas. They are better than Nashville, and they are better than Winnipeg. They may not be playing like it, but their roster is better. The real question I have is, are they better than Minnesota? Because I think Colorado, who, by the way, has not had a great start to their season, still is the best team on paper in the division. St. Louis is up there with best team on paper. And then to me, it's Chicago and Minnesota. And I really do think Chicago right now, at least, is better than Minnesota. Now, as Minnesota's young prospects come up and develop a little bit more, perhaps that will change. But for right now, I still think Chicago has a slight edge on talent over Minnesota. But as you can see, it's not playing out like that. And Jeremy Colleton was fired, and now Derek King is the interim head coach. The Hawks have announced that Derek King will be the interim coach throughout the rest of the season. I think that's a mistake. I think this is, again, with the roster they have, this is a team that's built to win now. You don't hire an interim coach, especially not, the season is, we're only, well, at the time, actually, we were only 11 games in. Now we are 14 games in, or excuse me, they were 12 games in. Now they are 14 games in. And the season is not lost. There's still 68 games to play. This is not a lost season, but they're acting like it is. And obviously there are other things going on organizationally that I have no interest in commenting on. The circle jerk that is Twitter has done enough of commenting online with the want to be lawyers and everything. There's just no point in talking about it. So I've pretty much refrained from talking about it this entire time. And I will also have you note, this is the only thing I'll say, the court case is still not finished. I don't think the defendants, I don't think the plaintiffs have a leg to stand on in either case. We will see what happens there. And I still have questions. Maybe this makes me an asshole, but I still have questions about the validity of some of the things that have come out from Kyle Beach, etc. But again, I'm not going to get into this because to me, it's a bag of worms. Everyone feels bad, including myself, if someone is sexually assaulted. We don't want to get into pointing fingers and all of that. As I said, the activists masquerading as journalists on Twitter have done enough of that. They've been getting enough circle jerks, enough orgasms off of other people's flight that we do not need to do that here. So I will not be talking about that. This will probably be the only time you hear me mention it going forward, unless there's some huge thing that comes out later on, which I don't see happening. But obviously the organization is in turmoil. That's one reason why they fired, like they say, Stan Bowman resigned. He didn't resign. They fired him. it's one of those, you can either resign or have us fire you. Either way, you will not be here on Monday morning type of things. And, you're fired, basically. Jeremy Colleton, they waited too long, and Colleton, he should have went the same time. They should have done it bang, bang. They didn't. They gave Colleton another 2 or 3 games. That was a mistake. But I don't believe this is a smart decision on their part. I think they should have 100% went with an experienced or veteran coach. Now, whether you bring Derek King in as a stopgap for a couple games while you interview coaches, that's fine. I don't think Derek King's a permanent guy, unless they do something historic as St. Louis did and they go on and win the cup. I don't see that happening. But that would be the only reason that I think Derek King gets an extension at this point and have the interim tag removed. There are too many veteran coaches out there that better suit this team. And any of these guys, I don't have a favorite here. Okay. But there's John Tortorella. There's Bruce Boudreau. There's Rick Tocchet. There's Claude Julien. There's Paul McLean. Now, Paul McLean is currently an assistant with the Toronto Maple Leafs. And his son is also an assistant coach with the Toronto Marlies, their AHL club. I'm not sure how much, if Paul McLean would be willing to leave that position to come to Chicago, but he's a former Jack Adams Award winner. I know him personally. He's a guy I would bring in. He's structured. He holds players accountable, and he's a really good guy. I know there's been instances where he has basically threatened to forfeit games in lieu of his players' safety because ice conditions were not good. I've known him to sit players and even trade players for lack of hustle and lack of conditioning. I know he's a really a good guy, I think, that could come in and help organizationally, both on and off the ice. But again, as I said, all of these guys are guys that can come in right away and help a veteran coach. Derek King may be a veteran. He's been an assistant coach for over a decade now, but I don't see him as a permanent answer. But he is 2-0 in 2 games coached. So there is that. You got to give him credit for that. Although I think really Mark Crawford's been coaching. I think Derek King would even admit to that. So maybe we can say Mark Crawford is 2-0. And real quick, I want to talk about Mark Crawford because apparently the activists on Twitter on the Chicago beat are so retarded that they do not know Mark Crawford's history. John Dietz, for example, cannot figure out why Mark Crawford was not hired as the interim head coach. Pat Boyle on NBC Sports Chicago cannot figure out why Mark Crawford was not hired to be the interim head coach. Pat Boyle waxed poetically in trying to answer his question that perhaps it was the investigation into the 2019 player abuse allegations. Wrong. If you think the bad juju that follows Mark Crawford along, I said from the day Mark Crawford was hired, it was a mistake because of what's on his resume. For those of you who are unaware, Google Steve Moore, Colorado Avalanche, Vancouver Canucks, and you will see what I am talking about. Does Todd Bertuzzi ring any bells? Mark Crawford was sued personally for putting out a hit on Steve Moore during a Colorado Avalanche Vancouver Canucks game in which Marc Crawford was the head coach of the Vancouver Canucks against his former team, the Colorado Avalanche, where he won a Stanley Cup, I believe, as an assistant coach. Maybe he was the head coach. I don't recall, but I know he won a cup there. Anyway, Steve Moore is paralyzed from the waist down. So he files a lawsuit against Todd Bertuzzi, Marc Crawford, and I assume the Vancouver Canucks. So let me ask you, John Dietz, Pat Boyle, is that really a guy you want to be your interim head coach in the midst of the current shit show that is your organization? Better yet, as I said from the get-go, why did you hire him to begin with? If we're going to sit here and go about toxic hockey culture and do all the activist shit online, hello, why is he coaching in the league? After what he did and what he was sued for? What? Again, obvious. It's obvious. It has nothing to do with the allegations from 2019. It has to do with what he did back in, I believe this was 2004. Nearly 20 years ago now. God, I'm getting old. But nearly 20 years ago. You want to know something? I did my master's in business administration about 8 years ago now. Again, I'm getting old. And when I was there, we had an ethics course and we had to give a presentation. I did mine on Marc Crawford. This is in the height of the Blackhawks dynasty. Okay. My college professor liked it so much that he had me come and give the presentation. And again, this is also when I'm currently in conversations to play hockey still in the American Hockey League with certain teams. I eventually retired and didn't go pro, but I was having conversations after my collegiate year, but I kind of knew deep down that I couldn't make it go anymore. And I was looking ahead towards law school and I didn't want to take a year off. So I decided to do this NBA program for at least the time being, because, you know, just like medical school and law school, you have to have entrance exams and apply and do all these things that take time. And I didn't want to take time off from school. So I was I had two balls going up in the air, and my professor knew this, and that, you know, that I was a hockey guy. And yeah. So with that in mind, he had me give it to his undergrad class. So this presentation on Marc Crawford and this kind of brutality in sports. And yeah, so if if you don't understand why Marc Crawford was not named interim head coach, you apparently need to widen your horizons on hockey. And Pat Boyle has been around for a while, so he has no excuse for that. John Dietz, look, all the activists on Twitter, none of them have any idea or a clue about anything. Realistically, like even Powers and them, who I try to give credit to, most of the stuff they do is just repeat buzzwords that they pick up from players. They have no idea what they're talking about. None. But anyway, yeah. So that's why Marc Crawford was not given the interim tag. But moving on from that, Derek King is the interim coach on record. and he is 2-0. So let's talk about the game against Pittsburgh. So there are some things I want to talk about after the game in regards to the offense. And we'll do that on our, the own time. But to start out, the Blackhawks got a goal from Jujhar Kharia from a nice setup from Johnny Toews, and what a revelation he's been this season. Hasn't lost a beat. Still looking, I believe, for his first goal, but he looks like old Jonathan Toews, and that's something the Blackhawks have desperately needed. The problem with the offense is in other places, but Kharia gets the first goal from Jonathan Toews, and it's 1-0 Chicago. Blackhawks would build on this lead in the second period when Seth Jones would get his first goal as a Blackhawk. Great screen in front by Kirby Dach, and it would quickly be 2-0. We would then enter the third period, and it became the Jeff Carter show, and the Blackhawks were just dominated throughout the period. I believe the shots were something like 22-5. It was either 20-5 or 20. It was either 20-5 or 22-5. Either way, the Blackhawks were dominated. Jeff Carter scored 2 goals in the third to get the Blackhawks their tie. We would then go into overtime. Blackhawks had 3 or 4 chances, it seems, to win the game, including a 2-on-0 with DeBrincat and Kane that hit the post. It wasn't going in. It hit the outside of the post, but how they didn't score on that, I don't know. Anyway, we go to the shootout, and I do want to bring this up. Before the end of the third period, I forgot about this. There was about 2 seconds left in the game, something like that, and Marc-Andre Fleury made a glove save, and the puck came out of his glove, bounced out into the slot, and I don't remember who had the shot, but he just shot it wide. That could have been the game could have been over on that play. So as good as, people want to say Marc-Andre Fleury was in this game, he had a horrible rebound there. He also should have stopped the second goal. He didn't, but, that's going to happen. I won't rag him on that. But again, when you're praising players, please don't act like the bad stuff didn't happen. And I like Fleury. I like both our goalies. So, consider that what it is. Blackhawks win in the shootout. Jonathan Toews, good old number 19, as good as ever. And then Alex DeBrincat with the game winner on the third shot. Marc-Andre Fleury stopped the 2 shooters he faced, Chris Letang, and I can't remember who their first shooter was, but he was stopped by Marc-Andre Fleury. Fleury finished the night with 2 goals against, 44 shots against, 42 saves with a save percentage of .955. Again, that is in 3 periods plus a 5-minute overtime. And yes, so the defense has definitely been better the last 2 games. But one thing that I want to talk on, because I haven't really talked with you guys at all this season since play began, is the offense. Now, I've got up-to-date current offensive statistics in front of me. And one of the things I want to talk about here is the Blackhawks, just quite frankly, horrific offense. It is horrific. And I cannot figure out why both Lucas Reichel and Alex Nylander are still in Rockford. I can't figure out why. And even if you want to go beyond them, why Josiah Slavin has not been given an opportunity to play. Josiah Slavin had a goal last night, I believe. all three of those guys are either at a point per game pace or just under a point per game pace. Again, I don't know what's going on, why none of them have been given a call up, but they haven't. And I'm going to tell you why they need to be given a call up. So, first of all, when we look at Corsi 4, the Blackhawks have the third worst Corsi 4 in the entire National Hockey League. Third worst. That means they hardly ever have possession of the puck. So that's a problem. Let's go to goals for, shall we? The Blackhawks are third worst in the league, tied with the New York Rangers for the lowest amount of goals scored. Let's go for goals for percentage. The Blackhawks are dead last. They're behind Arizona. And not only are they behind Arizona, but they are behind Arizona by 8 points. Think about that. How bad is Arizona? And the Blackhawks, in terms of goals for percentage, are 8 points behind. Let's go for expected goals for. Interestingly, the Blackhawks are fifth in expected goals for. So they are dead last with goals for and fifth in expected goals for. What? So that would mean a couple things. One, they've had bad luck, possibly, or they're just not very good at shooting, which is what I've been talking about for about 3 or 4 years now. And again, I like this team. I told you on paper, I think they're about a third, fourth place team. Or really, at their best, second place. At their worst, fourth place. They're in that 2 to 4 range, depending on how injuries go and they go throughout the season, with their roster as currently constructed on paper. However, I have maintained, for those of you that have listened all of last year and that follow me on Twitter, they do not have enough scoring. Ironically, one of the guys I don't like, Dominic Kubalik, has actually had his best season this year in terms of two-way play and not being a defensive liability. However, he's not scoring anymore because, lo and behold, when you actually have to go to the boards and forecheck and back check and do all these defensive things, you're not allowed to stand in front of the net and get a bunch of brownie goals off of other players' hard work. And you're not allowed to hang back behind the play to get set off on breakaways. So it's kind of a love-hate thing. And I can just sit here and go, see, I told you so. He isn't that good. He isn't that good. Now, he did pick up an assist last night, I do believe, on the Kharia goal. But he's not here to get assists. He's here to put the puck in the net, and he's not putting the puck in the net. And the other thing is Patrick Kane, with exception to one game where he had a hat trick, is also not putting the puck in the net. The only person that's putting the puck in the net with any regularity is Alex DeBrincat. Kirby Dach, again, we need to have a conversation about Kirby Dach because I'm not seeing any progression. I think, really, he should be in Rockford. You can't really send him to Rock. Now people say, well, you want to call up Lucas Reichel and you want to call up Alex Nylander, but then you want to send Kirby Dach down? Well, no, because you can't afford to send Kirby Dach down. Should he have been in Rockford? Absolutely. Absolutely. He was a rushed prospect, just like Adam Boquist was a rushed prospect. These are easy things, but here we are. We're not in a place where we can do this anymore because of the trades that we have made. The Seth Jones trade being one of them. We have to win now. This is a win now roster. The rebuild, it's over. This is a win now roster. And this is what I'm saying. When you have offensive numbers like this, so again, one of the fifth best expected goals for, and you're dead last in goals for, and you're 8 points behind Arizona. These are bad numbers. Okay. Bad. Why are your two of your most skilled players in Rockford right now? You're telling me that when you're averaging about 2 goals a game, barely, that you would rather have Reese Johnson, Mike Hardman, Kara all in the lineup? Those guys are the same player. They are the same player. We do not need 3 of them. It is not necessary. Two is the most that we need, at most. Reese Johnson should not be on this team. He shouldn't be. Furthermore, he's now injured 4 to 6 weeks. But why is Mackenzie Entwistle here? He does nothing. He's a bottom 6 player. You can't score. You are unable to score right now. Why are Lucas Reichel and Alex Nylander, 2 of your most prolific, skilled players offensively, are in Rockford right now? Why? There has to be some sort of reason. Like, are you intentionally trying to get the first overall pick? Because, folks, we traded our first round draft pick for Seth Jones. And unless we win the lottery, we're not getting that pick. So I'm sorry if it bugs you a little bit to rush prospects, as some of my fellow podcasters on Twitter have said that we don't want to rush prospects. We do not have that fucking luxury anymore. I agree with you. We shouldn't be rushing prospects, but we do not have that luxury. Because imagine that things stay as they are, we don't improve, and we don't win the draft lottery. That means the Columbus Blue Jackets could be picking 3rd overall in the deepest draft in 20 fucking years. This is why you don't let people like Barstool Chief dictate how you make up your roster. Because now you're looking at not even having. There's a Sports Illustrated. Go look about the 3-headed monster, the top 3 prospects in the 2022 entry-level draft. Shane Wright probably will be the number 1 overall pick, but there's 2 other guys who are really good. And if you had 3rd overall, you're getting one of those. But nope, not unless we win the lottery. Absolutely horrific management. So anyway, as I'm saying, why are we sitting here acting like our current roster's working? It's not. And why is Dylan Strome, who's been one of the best forwards that I've watched, still playing in the bottom six? You know, Alex DeBrincat and Dylan Strome have natural chemistry together, and Kane has chemistry with anybody he plays with. Kirby Dach is struggling. He's winning like 30% of his faceoffs. He's fucking terrible right now. People say, oh, he does the things that don't show up on the stat sheet. He's doing all these great. I'm not concerned with things that don't show up on the stat sheet. Okay. I'm looking at, he's a center. This is his third season in the league. Okay. He's not scoring with any regularity, whether that be assists or goal scoring. He's not winning a face-off to save his fucking life, which, as big as he is really concerning. And we need to score. Okay? Dylan Strome has proven he can score 50 points a season. And instead of putting him in that position with players he has natural chemistry with, he's flailing away down in the bottom six. Kubalik not scoring. Dach not scoring. Kane not scoring. What are we doing here? I don't want to see Reese Johnson anymore. I love Mike Hartman, but I don't want to see him anymore. I want to see guys that can score, because you're not winning in today's National Hockey League scoring or averaging 2 goals a game. Everyone wants to talk about Kevin Lincoln and Marc-Andre Fleury. They're not playing that well. Well, first of all, it's been better the last 2 games, but how many fucking 2-on-1s were we giving up a game? How many odd man rushes? Now, if that's corrected, hopefully it is, we're also not scoring. You have to score to win. And I don't care if you got Martin Brodeur and Dominic fucking Hasek or Patrick Waugh and Martin Brodeur as your goalie tandem. You ain't going to fucking win if you don't score more than 2 goals. It's simple. So why are we continuing to call up these third and fourth line grinders, guys that can't even score in the AHL, in lieu of guys that are actually skilled? Oh, we don't want to rush our prospects. Yeah, as I said, it's too late for that. It's too late for that. Now, maybe we'll get a miracle and we'll be horrific the rest of the season, and God will bless us with Shane Wright, and then we'll win the draft lottery. We'll get a generational talent. But that's the miracle. And to me, I don't like praying for miracles. That's not generally a position I want to be in. So, yeah. Anyway, I'm glad all of you are back with me here. Hopefully you haven't run off. Hopefully you're back listening to me. I'm glad to be talking with you guys again, talking about Blackhawks hockey. I really do enjoy this. It's been fun getting all excited, sitting here talking about the team and the horrible organizational management that we currently have. But again, that's what I love. That's why I love doing this. I love interacting with fans. I love talking about this stuff because it gets the juices flowing and it gets you excited about the future and what we can see going forward, even when we're having a bad season. So again, I assume I will be back moving forward. But with that, that's going to wrap up this review of Game 14 of the 2021-2022 Chicago Blackhawks season. Blackhawks beat the Pittsburgh Penguins in a shootout by a score of 3-2 and a score of 2-0 in the shootout. And they improved their record to 3-9-2 on the season. Next game is against the lowly Arizona Coyotes. Hopefully, we will be discussing our third win in a row against these Arizona Coyotes when we come back for our next episode. But until then, everybody, please stay safe, enjoy yourselves, take care of each other, and I will talk to you very soon. Until then, McBrooklyn is going to go have some water because I've killed my voice. I'm not used to this anymore, guys. Anyway, again, thanks again, everybody. I'll talk to you soon.